There's no sponsor that I use more while I'm awake than NordVPN.com/Fightful. Man, this is like the Swiss Army knife, the multi-tool of applications. It does a little bit of everything. You always get a great deal at NordVPN.com/Fightful. You can listen to your favorites abroad. You can shield your data from snoops and criminals, protect yourself on public Wi-Fi, and it works on all your devices and operating systems. It doesn't end there. Change your virtual location and then get pay-per-views at a much more affordable price, TV services at a much more affordable price. You got a password manager, a file encryption tool, threat protections, and on top of that, 24/7 tech support. So if for some reason you don't know exactly how it works, NordVPN.com/Fightful will help you learn how to do it. Check it out, NordVPN.com/Fightful. Wow, my camera is, man, listen, technology should be better than this. This is like a $200 camera that just goes out of focus all the time. What's up, you guys? I will rectify this situation as soon as I can. What's up, you guys? It's Sean Ross Sapp. Jimmy Van is out today, so I am here answering your super chats, and there it fixes itself. Boy, I cannot wait to get my cam link set up to avoid this. Get your super chats, get your humper chats in. Super chats here at youtube.com/Fightful. Humper chats over at humperchats.com. Thumbs ups help, comments help. But basically, the length of time that I'm hanging around here is all dependent on you guys sending super chats and humper chats. That gets your questions, statements read on the air. And that's what we're going to talk about, whatever you guys want to talk about. Big thank you to our sponsor at NordVPN. They've been with us for a couple of years now. There are a lot of people questioning, where will I be able to watch this? How much am I going to spend on this next year, this year? NordVPN.com/Fightful is my go-to. That's how I'm watching WrestleDream this weekend. It's how I'm watching Bound for Glory. It's how I'm watching UFC pay-per-views all the time. Shout out to our friends at NordVPN.com/Fightful. But by all means, guys, get in those super chats, get in those humper chats, because if y'all don't send any, I'll just hit the bricks. But talking to you about FightfulSelect.com. If you like this Q&A format, well, you are in luck. I run the Ask SRS section of Discord all the time, nonstop. In fact, last week we had a bit of a scoop there. Somebody said, Serena mentioned some women possibly getting cleared. Do you happen to know any? And I said, okay, this will be a test of how quiet our Discord can keep it. But Penelope Ford was one. We had a little bit more detail on FightfulSelect.com, the best $5 in the business today, where we mentioned that she was backstage working to get cleared recently and is back in the fold. Great to see. Great to see. I don't know what like kind of deal she's on right now, but just glad to see. I'm glad to see Kip Sabian being used more as well. We had a dual NXT AEW review last night. I had to take some time off, some family. Some unfortunate tragedies continuing in the family, but I did want to offer a few thoughts up on NXT and AEW as I didn't get to review those. Unfortunate end of the show with Randy Orton and Evans missing on that RKO. It looked like a little bit of an over-rotation there. It's something they had worked on before. I was bummed that they had to move it from the original location to where they were, and they still had a little trouble moving tickets. I'm hopeful that WWE isn't necessarily out of the, they can put any show on and sell it like crazy, type of area, because they are in a situation where they're doing double tapings multiple times, and they've scaled back live events. So their events are still like special to go to. Like, I know that I think it was SmackDown last week, wasn't like at capacity or anything like that. But I look at what they're doing and I'm like, all right, it's going to heat back up around Mania. They're still doing great crowds. They're still doing all that. But you do see it subsiding like very slightly in some instances where they got to move a couple things. But other than that, I think things are looking promising on that front. I liked how Raw and SmackDown were laid out Friday and Monday where they had some important matches there that probably should have been on the PLE as well. But man, lots of stuff to monitor there. Julia and Stephanie Vicker. Ooh, man. I saw somebody last week on our Q&A. By the way, go ahead and get those super chats and humper chats in. I'm letting those sort of collect before I get to them. But somebody had mentioned last week I think it was the Q&A. They were like, what do you think of a new 4 horsewomen of Delta, Stephanie, Julia, and Roxanne? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I think that Roxanne's ready for the main roster, but I also kind of love it because if you want 4 pillars to build a network TV show around, boy, that is a really, really good one, isn't it? That is a hell of a set of 4 talent to be able to push, promote, and anchor an awful lot of people around. That's what you want. You want 3 people who've been world traveled. Actually, Roxanne's been world traveled. What am I talking about? She's worked the Indies. She worked in ROH. She's already been there despite her age. I think that is just a great way to anchor that division. There are some elements of NXT that aren't quite for me, but man, I think they got a good thing going right there. On AEW, Jeff Jarrett doing commentary. I think he'll grow into it. There were highlights and lowlights. I love what they're doing with Kyle Fletcher. There are a couple situations that I have looked at. And to me, there are a few. I mentioned the pillars of NXT, right? I think there are a few situations. And as this person asks questions, get in a super chat, get in a humper chat, and I will answer those. I have a couple already set up to run, so get those in, and that's what I'll answer. But I look at AEW, and more than any available signing, outside of Becky Lynch, of course, she would be huge. I think that retaining guys that are next up is very important for them. Jade Cargill, it's a TBD right now out of, well, could they have gotten more out of her? We'll see. But the future Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair matches, full steam ahead, looks like it'd be great. But I look at several talent in NXT who appear, or not NXT. I look at several talent in AEW who look like they're next up. And you can only be next up for so long until people are like, it's never going to happen. Ricky Starks is one of them who I feel like probably believes he should have already been at that spot, and I agree. Daniel Garcia, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher are 4 of them just right there. Eventually, MJF was up. Eventually, Swerve was up. Hangman was up. 2 of those 3, had a bit of a name about them before they came there. MJF a little bit too because of MLW, but really largely developed that name in AEW. To me, I don't think they'll be able to retain Ricky Starks because otherwise I think they would have come to terms and he would be doing something on TV. But Kyle Fletcher right now is in the middle of a feud that also involves Takeshita, but also involves Will Ospreay, who everybody knows is a world title level talent. And I think that it is very important that you push people like he and Takeshita, who FightfulSelect.com reported last week was in for a big push. Personally, I believe he's winning the international title. That's how far I think I'll go with it. And then you keep Daniel Garcia. That's important because AEW, at the time they were formed, was largely out of dissatisfaction for WWE. Well, by and large, WWE does not suck anymore. I rather enjoy watching their programming and following their stories. But you can't go away from well, what about all the other guys that should be atop? And you've got plenty of them now. We're not too far from Adam Cole returning as well. But what about the next guys? They had a clear path to get to the title for Mariah May. And that's great. But then it's got to be who's next. Not like, oh, okay, now we got to move away from her title. But look at the mess that went on with deciding who would challenge her, who would challenge Mercedes. They have to get people wins as well. And they've got to retain their talent, their young talent that everybody sees as like, oh, they're going to be a guy, somebody big one day. Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia. That's 3 of those guys right there. That's 3 of those guys right there. We will have betting odds available for AEW WrestleDream from Bet Online. I'll tell you more about them later. But very excited to see how things unfold there. We do have some super chats. We do have some humper chats. Have you heard of any plans for Goldberg? So I asked this week if he was signed, and I'm supposed to find out, or what's going on there. I was overjoyed that he did not get involved in the Gunther-Sami Zayn match, because I know there are some parallels with Eddie and Brock and all that stuff, but part of me didn't like that he got involved in that either. I understand they had to protect Brock. If they probably would have known that he was leaving, they would have just had Eddie pin him clean. I would be surprised if Goldberg does not work another match. Maybe 2. I'd mentioned this on Monday. I'm not a Goldberg fan. I don't particularly like his demeanor, but I do think that he contributed enough. I mean, I don't mean to say that condescending. He contributed an amount to wrestling where he should have an appropriate send-off that makes him feel comfortable as well. I don't have to like the booking. I think that a lot of his booking was really bad, but I would love to see him against Gunther or Braun Breaker. Pardon me. I think that should happen. SRS, how can WWE fix or adjust the 2-hour Raw? You don't have to have somebody on the show every week. And they're usually pretty good about this, right? Like sometimes, especially with the CM Punk feud, they would build it in absence. It's okay to do that. They did that this week with Bronson Reed. He wasn't on the show. But with Seth Rollins, they built it in absence. I think that's something they should do more. I do think it's very smart to have Seth Rollins out in front of the audience because he's not going to die a death in front of that crowd. They're going to sing his song. They're going to chant his name. He's in control of it. I do think it's smarter to have highlight videos of, and I'm not saying that they would die in front of the crowd either, but Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, Bianca, Sheamus, to set up some of these matches though. However, they got to get more creative with timing. Listen, there was no reason for a 10-woman tag to go 5.5, 6 minutes with 3 of it in commercial. A talent there said it felt like Divas era stuff to them. And they were not thrilled about that. They have to allocate time a little bit better. And what I was told was, naturally, there will be some growing pains, but they're used to formatting SmackDown as well. However, I've watched a few SmackDown shows where, Michin and Doudrop got their time completely cut. Needs to be adjusted a little bit. Now, I don't necessarily think it's bad that Jey Uso won a 6-minute title match against Xavier Woods. I think you have to remain unpredictable in that sense a little bit, but you can do a lot of things in 2 hours, but you don't have to have everybody on there in that 2-hour period. You see what I mean? Like some of that stuff can be pushed to next week. They are doing double tapings the next month or so. Of stable plans for Shida, Deeb, Monet. I know at one point, and I had reported this, so it's not a thing for somebody to aggregate. Mercedes had been interested in the Renegade twins or the Renegade girls, but I know Charlotte had been trying to get cleared. Deeb, I don't know, but if you're running a dojo, shouldn't you have at least one pupil? Shida, as the mob boss, has long been a thing that I think they should have done and is long overdue. Long overdue. Should have done this. Shout out to Matthew Hooks of Hooked In Voiceovers, who not only sponsors our award show, but sponsors a variety of other shows. If you would like to sponsor the Fightful Awards and maybe even specific awards, please reach out to Kate. She's been doing a good job planning that, and we have a variety of options available for you guys. What is the internal view on Hologram after last night? Where did Jake managing LFI come from? Well, it's the talent exchange element of it that I like. They wanted, obviously, someone who can more eloquently describe the points of Beast Mortos and Roosh. And I think Jake could be good for that. I think there's a much higher likelihood that this just gets dropped, abandoned, and we rarely see them on TV. But at least for now, I'll retain that optimism. But I think that Jake can do some good stuff for them. I think a highlight video of the three with Jake talking over top of them would be good. But I think it's one of those situations where I'll give you a good example. My favorite team is the Bengals. Bless them. They're terrible. They had Joe Mixon last year. Joe Mixon was really, really bad in our system. He catch the ball, but running the ball, it wasn't right. They needed to move on. The Bengals picked up Chase Brown and Zach Moss, who are better in this system. As a result, Joe Mixon goes to the Texans. He's better in that system. I think Archer with Don Callis and having somebody to be menacing around the stuff that Don Callis pulls and Jake Roberts doing promos for LFI, it's a better system match. As far as the internal view on Hologram is a guy and a thing that Tony Khan has wanted to do for a long time, and they finally made it work. Now they need to get on better about the merchandising aspect of it. But and there were some very technologically ambitious things that I'll reveal when I can. Some lighting elements and some elements of this character that I thought would be very interesting. I didn't know how they'd pull it off, but I've heard nothing bad. I think that this was a situation where both guys were wanting to show that they could base a little bit, and they had some spots that didn't quite work out as planned, but they had spots to go to in the event that happened. The springboard into the power bomb I thought was really good. Internal view, I haven't heard anything negative on Hologram. There were a couple of spots here, and in general, where they go past each other and they just stand there, and I'm like, what are you doing? The single leg trips, I put a little more into those, I think. Any word on how WWE PC's NXT arena would look like? I haven't heard anything besides they're making some alterations and some changes. I'm sure that Corey Brennan will be on this, but it is a cramped venue. It's a cramped venue. If you turn around and see where the camera is laid out, you'd be like, oh, wow, they're talking to a wall there. It is not a big venue based on everything that I have seen there. Do you think we're closer to getting an update on Kevin Owens' contract news? Every day that we get closer to his contract being up, which is around the end of the year, is closer to finding it out. If I were WWE, I would sign him before he gets the option to get an AEW offer. Because if they don't, AEW is going to make a humongous offer to Kevin Owens. I know that Tony Khan and AEW have wanted Kevin Owens for quite some time. They wish they would have gotten him last time. However, if you're Kevin Owens, you got to feel pretty damn good about the decision you made to stay with WWE, considering the fact that you main evented WrestleMania with Stone Cold Steve Austin, first match in, what was it, 19 years? And then main evented WrestleMania with your best friend in the first tag team title match to ever main event a WrestleMania. I think if I were Kevin Owens, and it's easy for me to say, I would at least see what the other offer is. Unless WWE comes along and offers you a schedule and an amount that is so much that you're like, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm comfortable here. I like it here. He's got a lot of friends over in AEW as well. I do wonder, what is there left for Kevin Owens to do in WWE? And I also wonder, does WWE want to, or AEW want to get in the habit of signing all of these older talent, although more physically capable than we're talking about WCW doing it, clearly. Lord Zypher says, I know you typically don't fantasy book. What do you foresee being the two main events for Mania this coming year? Will be my first Mania As far as being a fan since the late 90s, my dad's first live wrestling event, can't wait. If they don't do Bianca versus Jade, I have constantly looked at Bianca versus Rhea as a WrestleMania main event. Yeah. I have always thought the Horsewomen 4-way would be, but Mercedes can't do that. Cody, Roman, and Rock, I think, is a WrestleMania main event. I think that's a main event. And I think Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew might be, or Gunther versus John Cena for the world title. And I think John Cena is winning that world title at WrestleMania. That's how I feel. Tony says, I know Willow didn't win the final match with Chris, and I explained on Grapsody how I believe she deserves a title match because she usually had the upper hand in the matches involving Chris and the Owen. However, this leads me to a question. What is more important in a feud? Story and elevation of the wrestler, winning 2 out of 3 matches, or winning the last major blow-off match you often lost in the feud? So, Tony, I'm glad you asked this question because this is an issue that I have had with booking and wrestling. And booking in MMA. I don't like people in MMA getting rewarded for inactivity or getting rewarded for losses. Juliana Pena got rewarded for not fighting. She got rewarded for last losing 2+ years ago to Amanda Nunes. And as a result, because she once beat Amanda Nunes 3 years ago before, she was booked in a title match on UFC 307, and not a great decision. Raquel Pennington should have won that. And they're looking at a situation now where a woman who lost her last fight and should have lost this one is now the bantamweight champion. In wrestling, you see a lot of people without coming off of a win getting a title shot. That's why I'm glad. First off, Willow beat Taya and then won a top contender match. But, let's rack up some damn wins here. Now, I hope that on, the pre-show or something, they say, no, Willow did not win the last match. But, man, she was in control of that feud. And they should. They should. And she put herself in contention that way. I think that you have to go into the majority of your feuds, and this is what I think AEW has a problem with sometimes, and say, this person's getting over. This feud is designed for this person to get over and this thing to happen, and me to punch my microphone. What do you think the discount max pay-per-views will cost? Listen, I don't have the answer to that, but I think that if you subscribe to Max at $20-some, you should get the pay-per-views at $15 or $20. Now, what I can tell you is that you can get them for a much reduced rate with NordVPN regardless. NordVPN.com/Fightful. Any news on Bandido? I wish I had an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you. And I feel like I've been asked about Bandido for so long that I just didn't realize he was gone as long as he was. That man has not wrestled since June 2023, mid-June. We're talking about 15 months now that Bandido has been gone. And I think that he's underwent multiple surgeries. I think he broke his wrist. I know there were people in May claiming he was ready to go, but I had not heard that at all. I had never heard that he was cleared to return back in spring like some other people had. If WWE higher-ups heard the fans' unhappiness with the booking of the women's division, they need to. But listen, I don't think that Triple H has ever been that strong with booking women on the main roster, at least from a top to the middle level spot. He's gotten some talent very over. Rhea Ripley, super over. But then the follow-up to that isn't necessarily strong. I haven't seen consistently strong booking out of that. And I mean, honestly, I haven't seen consistently strong booking out of a lot of American bookers outside of TNA wrestling. But yes, they are definitely aware of it. Say 5 nice things about Kate. She makes my job incredibly easier. She is very good and personable. She works her ass off. Let's see. She has nice hair. And she made my New York trip as easy and idiot-proof as possible. Kate is wonderful. Will the NXT archive library be available in the CW app? I haven't heard anything like that. It wouldn't surprise me to see it available on, like, their CW episodes available on the app. Not necessarily all the episodes, but the CW ones. Heavy Metal Chris says, SRS wearing orange, Taz's attacker confirmed. I had so many people when I would wrestle and wear orange and black be like, oh, Taz is going to be mad at you. Oh, it's orange and black because of Taz. Now, Taz did inspire me for sure. Like, I loved the Human Suplex Machine. One of my favorite wrestlers ever. But I wear orange and black because of the Bengals. I do have a Taz FTW shirt, but more inspired by Brian Pillman, Flying Brian, than Taz with the gear. But love Taz. Pat Faruga says, going to my first WWE pay-per-view Survivor Series, any fun surprises or matches you expect to happen? Fun matches I expect to happen. I think that War Games is going to get a lot of time. I think we got to go into the Bloodline War Games element of things. I think CM Punk will be at Survivor Series. I think you got to have him there now. Survivor Series will be synonymous with CM Punk to some degree for that. But what's up with the lack of women's matches on WrestleDreams? Seems real whack. Not going to lie. Anyway, much love to you and the crew. I'm pretty sure that they're going to add some. I'm like, have they not announced Mercedes and Chris? That should be on there. Willow and Mariah May will be on there. Yeah, and they'll probably add something to the pre-show that they've already got 11 matches on that show. Oh, brother. What are we doing? I love Darby Allin. I love Brody King. That could be on Collision as a major show, or as a major match on Collision. What? But I mean, okay, you know what? Darby's from the area. He answered the challenge. I put my foot in my mouth there. Who do you think gets entered into the C2 this year? Who do you think gets pushed or gets put on a track to be pushed? Well, one, I hope the winner of the C2, probably the winner gets a Continental Classic match or Continental Championship match. If Okada isn't in it, and she should be, but the winner should get that. I think they should recombine the ROH title and they should get rid of that damn title belt. I just don't think they need that title belt. I'm excited for the tournament, but a little like, because last year they introduced the new title and they said, well, it's a part of a Triple Crown and it combines some. And I was a little bit excited for that. I think Daniel Garcia has a much better run in it this year. I think Takeshita could be in it and do well. Mark Briscoe has a better run in it this year. Okada probably has a run. Ricochet. I think they will definitely load it up. You think Tony invests the TV deal money into a PC and have Dustin, QT, Paul White, and maybe Deeb help run it at some point in the future? Maybe. They could do something like that and then tape ROH in some situation like that. But I think if you get too much into studio wrestling, it gets really uninspired and it's like, you know what I mean? If they could have Dustin and QT and Serena help run a thing like that, that would be really, really great for them. I think they should base it in like Atlanta or something, though. I think that would be good. Takeshita wins the international belt, goes to the C2, beats Okada to merge the international and continental. Oh, from your lips to God's ears, buddy, or your keyboard or something like that. But I think they need to consolidate titles badly. I think that you got way too many title belts there. Way too many. which the irony is I would add a women's tag team title. But I would consolidate some of those belts for sure. Should a trio that refuses to be a trio be able to hold the trio's title belts? There's no Freebird rule. They made a point of saying that, but now BCC just gets to keep them. Well, that was due to an injury. They had to vacate the Bang Bang Gang, Bullet Club Gold, had to vacate because of an injury, which was also stupid because you could just Freebird them and drop them and not have another title vacation there. But no, I do think that they should be able to hold it. In fact, I am a little bit more interested in that because the BCC are main event booked talent right now. And Pac and Claudio are enforcers, right? So and obviously they're going to try to little bro Wheeler Yuta, but I definitely think they should be able to hold it. In fact, that adds a little bit more intrigue to it to me. Now, I need to update the AEW roster page that we have with updated trios, but man, this trios division was made because the tag team division was so robust that they needed it. And then in some of the recent pay-per-views, we saw a gaggle of trios matches on the undercard. And I said, hell yeah. And then a bunch of those trios have barely been used since then. Maybe I just don't pay that much attention, but Hologram, Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes, haven't seen them back. Premier athletes haven't been used to any extended degree. Austin, Colton, and Juice. Well, Juice was working singles, which is okay. But the Dark Order, we never see them on TV. Undisputed Kingdom is moving on. They're preparing for Adam Cole to come back. Shane Taylor Promotions and Beast Mortos, well, they're not an actual trios. Action Andretti and Top Flight, we've seen them implemented a little bit here and there. But they need to change. They're like nobody's clamoring for them. Use the learning tree, man, as a trios. What is the Tanahashi stuff leading to? I don't have a damn clue what you're talking about. I'm going to need some more color on that one. I'm sorry. Is AEW already looking at other game publishers? I had been told even before the game came out that they retained the rights to the engine. Like that information emerging isn't like anything new. They retained the rights to the engine. So I'm sure they're going to keep their eyes on it, but it didn't work out well. It was over budget very early. A lot of corners cut. A lot of frustration there for sure. What do you think about AEW unofficially making each mid-card title exclusive to one show? There's 3 belts and 3 shows. Well, Rampage is not going to be a thing after the end of the year, and we don't have an official announcement on Collision, so I wouldn't do that yet. The international title is very important. The TNT title should be on TNT instead of TBS. It should be featured heavily on TNT. But as of now, it's not. I mean, the TNT title should be the crown jewel of TNT. The Continental Championship shouldn't exist. I would lean more tag team on one show, more trios on the other show. And then, maybe a month later, switch it up and say, you need to be watching Collision. You need to be watching Dynamite. I think that's a better approach. Did something happen IRL between Chris and Stokely? I can't really talk much about what I've heard or details on that outside of they're just not working together. That's the limit of what I can really throw out there. I just heard that they're not working together and they moved on. They preferred to Chris and Stokely both preferred to work in other angles. You think AEW does Nigel versus Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door in London or for Wrestle Dynasty in Japan? I think it'd be better for Forbidden Door in London. I think that's ready-made for Forbidden Door in London. They're both going to be over with that crowd massively. Now, I mean, also to the degree of Nigel's comfortability in doing such a thing, I think is also very important. Like, what does he want to do? How many matches does he want to work? He's in incredible shape. Did really great. I mean, had a really good match against Bryan Danielson. But like, is working in Japan something that he wants to do? Trying to get some more on the Kenny Tanahashi thing that got mentioned earlier. To answer your Kenny Tanahashi confusion, where was that? Mike Owens. Where's your other comment on that? Damn it. I can't see it. I can't see it. You know what? We'll go to a word from our sponsor while I find it.
Whoa! You can bet on wrestling? Yeah, you can at BetOnline AG. We've given you a bunch of underdog picks over at Fightful since we started to work with BetOnline AG, but well before they were a partner, that's where we got our odds from for years. Whether it be major shows or your Continental Classics and other things like that, they always have a bunch of interesting odds for you over at BetOnline AG. But it's not just that. Payouts in minutes, high credit card acceptance, a safe and secure environment, and they've been trusted for over 25 years. They got the earliest lines, the fastest payouts, and the ability to bet on wrestling. How cool is that? If you think you know so much about this, go put your money down. Go do it. Show the world. Please bet responsibly and only bet what you can. BetOnline AG.
Those odds will be up for WrestleDream soon. If they don't have Takeshita favored to win, that's an underdog pick I would have. Fun one that I mentioned on the air around Bad Blood. Liv Morgan was favored to win that match and was supposed to win. But if you bet on Rhea Ripley, you won a bunch of money. And a couple people that I talked to did put money on Rhea Ripley. Not because I thought it would end at a DQ, though. So Saldivar says, I was referring to the Kenny Omega and Tanahashi meeting for New Japan. Well, I haven't heard anything about Kenny coming back anytime soon, but I actually did not see that video. So as I see, Kenny Omega says he wants revenge against the Young Bucks. He wants it by teaming with Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom or Dynasty. Well, then, yeah, I think that they're setting something up with that for sure. Does Shane to AEW look better after the Vince doc? Yes. I think that Shane came out of the documentary looking pretty good. They distanced him from his father pretty heavily in that documentary. I don't know if it'll happen, but Thomas says, do you think we get a Women's Continental Classic at some point? Yes, I do. I think we get a Women's Blood and Guts as well. And I think you have a good amount of talent. But I think that the women might get something of their own. Like I think they might integrate like global partnerships into something like that and do like some sort of really high level tournament. I think that could get some traction and they could do something very cool for the women in that degree. And I know tournaments have been pitched for sure. Will Liv get some TV defenses since she's not defending in Saudi? And she'll probably be a part of War Games this year. Rhea better not be next again. Lord, I hope so. I hope so. They should put that up. Like Adam Pearce should say, you know what? You're going to have to defend that title if you want the opportunity at Crown Jewel. Because still, people get involved in these women's title matches. From a Booker standpoint, a kayfabe Booker standpoint, it should be happening. Like, why would Adam Pearce just let that go? So, yeah, from a sensical standpoint, it should happen, even if it's a short match. KE775 says, do you think Seth will turn heel after the Bronson program? Seems like they're setting up stuff for Jay and Punk in the long run. I think that he will go shades of gray because I think you got to go shades of gray against Punk. And I think we are looking at a situation where maybe him versus Punk at WrestleMania main events one night, or him, Seth, or him, Drew. Punk, Drew, and Seth. You know what I was getting at there. I think that one could go there. But I think it is an important element of that feud to go shades of gray because not everybody's going to like CM Punk. A lot of people will. A great example, like Punk got cheered, but then there were some boos there. And then when Seth Rollins said, then I'm going to retire you, the crowd cheered. So there, it's a few people want to watch. I think that's important. DNC Digital says, how does it work that NXT apps were removed from Peacock if it's part of an existing agreement? In terms of money and content, does Peacock have a say? I am still working on that. I cannot convey this any more than I possibly can. Right now, I do not have information on the NXT library. I'm working on it. I'm trying. I don't know what went into that decision. Don't know. I'll see what I can find out on it. I'm surprised to see it go down like that. I really am. I didn't think it would. Because I'm with you. As a part of an existing agreement, I'm like, what the hell? Like if BetOnline came to me and they said, yeah, by the way, in addition to what you're doing, you have to get rid of NordVPN. I'd be like, that's not something we agreed on. If you wanted to approach me in a new deal and say, we'll pay you X amount of dollars to have no other sponsors on, well, sure. Joker says, might be a pointless chat. Is there any data that supports Jericho getting more TV time than any other wrestler? Give me Big Bill and Brian Cage. I am glad you mentioned this, Joker. The only data is Chris Jericho is making a lot of money and they don't want to waste it. But sometimes when a quarterback isn't performing, you got to bench him or find another role for them. Not saying that he's washed or anything. I think he's still all right. But Big Bill has been good in this. But Big Bill should be teaming with Brian Cage and should have been teaming with Brian Cage over a year ago. When they put Big Bill with Ricky Starks, I thought it was bad for Big Bill and bad for Ricky Starks. And in the long run, I was right. I don't think either one of them really wanted it. But you put Big Bill and Brian Cage together, and the crowd immediately liked it. Put them together. They were a fun team. Do it. We don't need the Jericho deal there, and we don't need Jericho with another stable. And if he is going to be in a stable, have him go on a trios run or something like that. I think that would be better. BL says, saw videos of you with long hair. When did you decide to cut it, and do you miss it? So I did a show with Jimmy Van. It's called Grappling with Grief. It's a project that he had, I believe, after his sister passed away. But you can go to Grappling with Grief and then type in my name. And I did a full podcast with Jimmy talking about it. And I think it's their top viewed video over there. Yeah, it's about 40 minutes long. And I lost a friend that I was very close with. And she wouldn't let us see her the last, year of her life. She was a beautiful girl, and she was very self-conscious about losing her hair as she battled cancer. And I could not possibly convey to that girl how much we did not care if she had hair or not, but she did. Like, it was very important to her that she not be seen like that. But to us, we just wanted to spend time around our friend before we lost her. And when we lost her, I had decided to grow my hair out to eventually donate. My wife since then has donated her hair and is going to again, but that's why I grew that out. I never had long hair before that. I've never had long hair since. Let me just say this. I do not miss long hair one bit. People who have had long hair and girls will understand this, but I was discovering at that point in my life, late 20s, early 30s, what it was like to roll your hair up in a car window without realizing that it was there, sitting up with your hair behind you. I did not know how to deal with long hair. Didn't know what product to put in it. Had to learn how to put it up as a grown man for the first time in my life. It was not fun. Sometimes I'll miss the look of it and stuff, but also, my grandmother cut my hair for a long time. She was a hairdresser. And as we found out, my grandmother was starting to develop some dementia type symptoms. She was cutting my hair a little bit, and she cut it around here, around my ears out of habit. And so for a while, when I would put my hair up, this part wouldn't go up as well, which now I look upon fondly. At the time, I was like, damn. But yeah, I do not miss having long hair. No, I do not. but I miss the purpose of it, you know. But that was a very important thing for me to do at least once in my life to honor a friend of mine. You think Shida gets added to the Deonna family? No, in fact, I think that the Shida team should feud with the Deonna family. That's what I think should happen. I mean, the Japanese mob boss thing, I think would go well. And I know that a lot of people say, well, it's very stereotypical to put the Japanese girls together. They hang out together. That's who's chilling together at these shows. So I'm like, damn, man. JM says, look like SmackDown on Netflix January 3rd episode, or Netflix listed January 3rd episode as the first WWE show on Netflix in several countries outside the US. No Philippines yet. Kind of sucks. I will follow that up, or follow up on that until I hear it from the company, meaning WWE, Netflix, or WBD, AEW. I have reason to doubt a lot of the information that emerges, because a lot of people were saying, oh, Raw on Netflix, definitely 3 hours. And then Triple H was saying, we're still trying to figure that out, man. Hope the Jericho trash leads to a big Bill face turn. There's just so much realignment that needs to be done, and some divisions that need more attention to them. You know what I mean? Thoughts on the Maria AEW tweet, hyping up nothing or some legitimate gripes? I don't know what her grievances are. I like Maria a lot personally. I like her a lot professionally as well. I think she's a very smart woman. I think that she would help out in a creative standpoint. She's, got a wonderful family as well. She wants to contribute, is something that I know to be true. She absolutely wants to contribute, whether it be as a manager, as a creative mind, some sort of situation there. And her deal is coming up. What do I have to do to get a Marina Shafir Camille last woman standing match? I think that'd be cool to have like last monster standing with those two and Megan Bayne if she comes in. But I think eventually that's a thing to do. Like, you go have a sirloin beef sons of bitches match with two women that are booked really well. I think it's very smart what they're doing with Camille. They're having her be the muscle, but they're also putting her in matches and having her win as well. So I love that idea. Tony says, my fix for the Continental title is to treat it like the King of Pro Wrestling title. Well, my friend, I didn't want that title belt either, because the absolute worst company with treating title belts in any certain way is New Japan. The way that they screwed up the lineage of their world title, the way that they had an intercontinental title that people cared about, got rid of it, brought in a TV title and a King of Pro Wrestling title. What are they? They are the worst with it. But it says, what I mean is it only matters when it comes to the Continental Classic. Make it a guaranteed key to enter the Continental Classic, and the winner and new Continental champ get a world title shot. That is convoluted to me. Tony, I think that's a lot of steps for something that they just give away sometimes. You know what I mean? To me, title shots are given away far too much for them to go through some big elaborate thing where somebody's got to go through all this and earn it. When people get title shots off of losses, and then I see people, they go through a 30-man rumble or a Continental Classic or a G1, anything like that. I'm like, damn, man, why didn't they just come out and call their shot like some bro in October did? Other than Miz, have you heard if CM Punk has made amends with any of the wrestlers he's had heat with before he came back? I know he and Regal seemed all right. Drew, he and Drew are working together. He and Seth Rollins are working together. So at least in some capacity of which they are working together. But I haven't heard that with like Owens or I haven't heard that with Reigns as of yet. Now I want to say, just because I haven't heard it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But I know he and Regal have had at least productive interactions. Have you heard anything about what venue in London will be at Forbidden Door? I have not. I'm sorry. But it says Royal Albert Hall would be perfect. It's a unique venue and a unique look. Plus, they could easily do a callback to the Battle Royal from back in the day. Chris, I watched the Battle Royal this past week. I didn't even know about it. I'm not a wrestling historian here, but I hadn't even seen it, and I was cruising Peacock, and I saw it, and I watched it. So it's wild that you mentioned that. But I love that. I love that. I think that Royal Albert Hall would be great. Plans on EJ and Nduka. Also, I know they'd love to do Craven Cottage if possible. Plans on EJ and Nduka. I know that they've got him. I mean, he was featured in the Swerve video, and maybe some integration there. I think would be pretty cool to have him involved with Swerve. There's naturally going to be mentions of him with Hurt Business. Or Hurt Syndicate. I have not heard of him necessarily being added yet. I've heard a lot of names thrown around there, but I haven't heard of him being added to that. I think he'd be very good. Sean, what's your personal opinion on AEW not letting Miro out of his deal? Personally hate it when a company holds a talent hostage. If they don't want to stay, let them go with the Lucha Brothers. Friends, we have got to stop saying hostage in these situations. Miro is making 7 figures. He is not a hostage. He and AEW have went back and forth on creative a number of times and haven't been able to come to an agreement. Being paid your salary is not being held hostage. I'll tell you a situation that reflects that more, and I'm not trying to pick on WWE, but the previous regime of WWE told FTR if they didn't want injury time added to their deal that they were expecting to be up, they would have to turn over trademarks that they personally paid for. And to my knowledge, they didn't get paid back for those. That's way more rough than man who can't come to creative terms with AEW getting paid 7 figures to chill at home. I'm sorry. I love you all. I sincerely do. But if Jimmy Van said, Sean, I will pay you 7 figures to sit on your ass and not come to work until spring 2026, I'm doing that every day of the week. And I'm going to spend time with my family. If I were in the seat that Tony Khan was in, personally, what I would do is say, fine, if you come back and you put over 2 or 3 talent or work 2 or 3 programs through the end of this year, I'll let you out of the deal. And then you free up a lot of salary. That's what I would do personally. That man is not being held hostage. That is not a thing. Not a thing. And again, I want to say thank you for the super chat. Not trying to minimize you or anything like that. Van Twinblade says, KO has never done anything wrong in his life. Why does everyone betray him? Stop slandering KO. What if it was just like Cody parked his bus in the wrong spot? And he's like, that was really disrespectful of you to take up all those spots. And that's why he attacked. Get your super chats, get your humper chats in. We are heading down the home stretch. Guys, you all really showed out for this show. And I want to say thank you. If you like this show, subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. It is $5 a month or $54 a year. And how about this for a teaser? A question that I thought for sure that I would get via super chat or humper chat, and I haven't yet. MVP signs with AEW. Chris Jericho is there. How does that work? I found out how it worked. And I've got the story coming to FightfulSelect.com right after this show. $5 a month, $54 a year. We had a bunch of news on NXT, on AEW. AEW has been subject to a lot of changes. I think that considering all the changes they've had to make due to the hurricane, by the way, had a whole bunch of talent reaching out to me, saying that Tony Khan and AEW reached out to them, making sure they were safe, stocked up for the hurricane, a lot of stuff like that. I think they've done very good at adjusting. But we have a day part saying, hope the Bucks lose the tag titles. Teams like MXM, Outrunners, Top Flight, Dark Order, Gates of Agony, Guns, Righteous need to be feuding against each other for those titles. I agree. I want to see more character development from the Righteous. I want to see the Guns, from a character standpoint, be something besides they are their father's sons from a personality standpoint. Because I think they They are so underrated. Pat says MVP Jericho had it work. No, buddy. I just plugged it for select. Gates of Agony need to get some wins. Dark Order need to be featured more. I think they should either lose the tag titles. Here's how I would do it. I would actually have the Outrunners win the tag titles, not Private Party. Although I wouldn't hate Private Party winning those tag titles. And then the Outrunners get turned on. And I don't mean like get horny. I mean like get attacked by FTR, who see this meme team getting over and getting adored. And they're like, are you kidding me? We've given our lives to this. We were still showing up during the hurricane. We give everything. And then our passion gets called whining and this meme team gets popular. Oh, I think that's a great way to develop it. Private Party, boy, can Isaiah Cassidy cut a promo. I think that's a strong suit there. I would lean into that more. LFI, as a trios or a team, has Jake Roberts cutting their promos. Immediately put Big Bill and Brian Cage back together. Do it now. Hey, Sean, what's the latest update on Becky Lynch? Is there any new info on a new deal with WWE? Has AEW reached out to her at all? I will ask if AEW has reached out. When I have reached out, I have been told that she is really, really enjoying her time off. I know she did a little bit of an interview, but every indication and interaction that I have had, like through Becky Lynch, is that she was very excited to spend some time with her kid and her husband. And you cannot put a timeline or a price tag on that. Listen, as somebody who has lost an awful lot of family this year, you cannot put a number on that. And if you read her book, which I highly encourage, the audiobook is great too. She is very aware of how important that is. And I was always given the indication that eventually she would come back and that both she and WWE feel like a deal would be worked out between those two sides. But that woman definitely deserves it. And it will be a situation when she comes back, sort of like CM Punk and like Sting and like Bryan Danielson for me and Adam Copeland, where I will always look at them and say, you know what? We're fortunate to have the time that we have with them, not because of an injury, but because, she has a presumably pretty cool kid. You think the Jericho Cruise matches get on Max and repairing Enzo and Bill been talked about? They briefly thought about bringing Enzo in, but decided against it. That's been a while back though, like well over a year or so ago. But I would like to see the Jericho Cruise matches get put on Max. But if not, I think AEW should do like sort of their own AEW Vault type of thing, or put them on Honor Club. Start the foundation of your own streaming service and then follow the WWE line of thinking. What's the latest on Megan Bayne? I've heard some ideas floated around about her, but I don't know if she is under a deal right now. And Dougie, I did see that you sent a super chat there. I don't know if she's under a deal or anything like that. But I have heard some ideas floated around for her in AEW, but that's been the case for a while. Guys, thank you all so much. Please leave a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. I didn't know when I started this show today how long I would be on the air. I thought it might be like a 20, 25-minute show, and you guys had me here for a full hour. I appreciate you guys. I just want to say this. I know it has felt like, gosh, every month or two, I've had a family situation arrive that has affected my schedule. It's been an unfortunate 6 months for our family. And I just want to say this. Thank you to all of you who have said nice things, put up with me being a little bit moody, a little bit sassy. Had a situation I was not proud of on social media last week and was very glad that I could rectify that with the individual. But I just want to say thank you for those of you that have continued to support us. I'll wrap it up by saying, Cool Fool saying, does it still surprise you that a billion-dollar company like WWE makes talent pay for travel expenses? Not hating, just an honest question. Yes, very surprised that this is not worked into the all-encompassing deals. This is a benefit that AEW has. AEW pays and arranges talent's hotel and travel to there. This is a benefit of AEW over WWE, in addition to schedule, in addition to outside bookings, signings, WWE can offer some massive contracts. AEW can offer flexibility, travel, and not only that, just the headache of not having to worry about that as well. There's some talent that get the amount worked in, but this is also, the Stephen P. New lawsuit that we've covered. I feel like there's more of a case of this against WWE than AEW, and that's because WWE or AEW does pay some of the travel talent and does allow people to get booked elsewhere, but that's something we're keeping our eye on. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys. Until next time, we're out. If I ever end the stream.